Right. Well, good morning. My name is Marissa Kalkman, and I am the Executive Director at the Wellness Council of Wisconsin. I'm new to the team since March of this year, and I have to say, I am, in my short time with this organization, I am just astounded by the enthusiasm, just the remarkable participation and what you all bring to this organization. We wouldn't have a wellness council if we didn't have all of you great employer members. So I want to welcome you to our 28th annual Worksite Wellness Conference. Our theme today is Inspire, Explore, Create, Your Extraordinary Impact. I'm honored to be here with you today, and WCWI is proud to connect you with thought leaders and experts in Wisconsin and beyond. As you participate throughout the day, I encourage you to keep these words in mind to fuel your participation not only here at the conference, but also in the work that you take away to go back into your organizations. I skipped ahead. Hold on a second there. These two words, extraordinary, going beyond what is usual, regular, or customary, and impact, a significant or major effect. Your extraordinary impact. To support you in your quest for your extraordinary impact, we have a phenomenal agenda of speakers presenting themes and topics that will undoubtedly fill your experience with inspiration, exploration, and creation. So throughout your day, I encourage you to think about, sorry about this slide mishap, I'm right here. I encourage you to think about these three questions. How will you inspire? Which ideas will you explore? And what will you create? I would like to thank first our many conference sponsors for this conference today, as well as for yesterday's events. Aurora Healthcare, conference sponsors. I need to put this down while I'm not using it. Here we go. Conference sponsors. Aurora Healthcare sponsored our pre-conference summit that we had yesterday. And University of Wisconsin Health and Wellness Management and University of Wisconsin Stevens Point were our sponsors for our annual award ceremony yesterday evening. The YMCA kicked us off this morning with 6 a.m. sunrise yoga, and we'll also be fueling our activity breaks, 3 more breaks throughout the day. Helix is our registration sponsor. HealthStat is keeping us energized with healthy snacks 2 times today. Tavi Health and Kind Hub are our giveaway sponsors. Network Health is sponsoring our exhibitor activity, and United Healthcare is supporting us today as the Keynote and skill building session sponsor. At this time, my slide will advance. Yes. I want to invite Mark Geiger to join me to the stage briefly. He's going to say a couple words about our exhibitor activity.
Okay. If you can go a couple slides back, please. There we go. Network Health is a Wisconsin-based insurance company, and we're happy to be the exhibit hall sponsor for this year's Wisconsin Wellness Conference once again. Network Health is going to be donating $2,750 to 3 Madison-based charities. The charities are doing wonderful works in the Madison area, just exemplary works around health and wellness, all the things that we do on a regular basis, but more out there in the community. The 3 charities are Rise, Journey, and Second Harvest Food Bank. Stop by each of these charities' booths in the exhibit hall to find out more about the work that they do locally. While you're there, your role is to collect tokens from all the different exhibitors. When you collect those tokens, come to the Network Health booth and vote for the charity that speaks to you the most. At the end of the day, Network Health will donate $1,500 to the charity that has the most tokens, $750 to the charity that has the second most tokens, and $500 for the charity that receives the third most tokens. I'll be back up in the noon hour to give you an update, and I'll have the charities standing alongside next to me, and I'll introduce them and talk a little bit more about what they do. Thank you.
Thank you all for bearing with us here in this technical. Let's see here. All right. Next, thank you, Mark. We look forward to everyone's contribution to that exhibitor activity today. And next, to share a few words from our Keynote and Skill Building Session sponsor, we have Emily Saywert with United Healthcare joining us on the stage. She's the nurse liaison with United Healthcare.
Oh, good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a good morning so far. I am a nurse liaison with United Healthcare, and what that means is that I work with one client in their offices and help their members live healthier lives, one person at a time. And that's really what I do. And I've never really felt like I've been able to help people in a way like this in any of my other professions. And I'm going to do a couple activities with you guys to get us started on the right foot today. Before I became a nurse, I was going to be a forensic psychologist, and many of you might not know what that means, but what I was doing was working at Mendota Mental Health, which is a few miles away, with people who were found not guilty by reason of insanity for their crimes, and I tested them to see if they were a psychopath. And that's what I was going to do, and I thought it was going to be great. And then I realized that that meant that you work in prisons, and you have to learn what to do when people bite you, or what to do when somebody pulls your hair. And that was a little too scary for me. So I came back to nursing, and that is how I ended up where I am. But I never lost what I think is really important, and that's mental health. So I'm gonna walk you guys through a couple activities that I think are really great ways to start off your day. And it doesn't require a lot from you, so you don't have to get up, you don't have to stretch or anything like that. So the first one, let's see if I can figure this out, is going to help decrease your heart rate, decrease your blood pressure, and fight stress. And it's really easy. So all you have to do is look at the screen. Great, so it worked. And really, this is a panda. I love pandas, they make me happy. And the activity that does those things is smiling. It's very interesting, it's kind of crazy, but just smiling and interacting with somebody who's smiling at you decreases your pulse, decreases your blood pressure, and fights stress. So we already did that, which is great. Good job, all of you. It worked. The next thing I'm going to talk about is mindfulness. So if you haven't done mindfulness, it's really great. It sounds really scary, I think, sometimes. When a lot of people do mindfulness, and when I talk to people about it, usually they say, ooh, that's kind of intimidating. I don't know where to start. I've tried it before, and I didn't think I was doing it right. If you try mindfulness, you're doing it right. That's really all there is to mindfulness, is just trying. That's doing it right. So mindfulness does a lot. It improves immune function, it affects brain function, and it decreases cortisol levels. Now, cortisol levels are stress hormones. So really, mindfulness is helping us decrease stress, which I'm just guessing all of you could do, because I can do it. So I think everybody can decrease stress. So we're going to start doing not mindfulness today, but breathing. Mindfulness is based a lot in breathing. And again, no one can do this wrong. It's just breathing. If you breathe, you're doing it right. So we're going to walk through just some breathing. So you can follow my voice, you can close your eyes, you can watch the screen. All we're going to be doing is breathing in and breathing out. That's it. So I have some bubbles here to help us do that. So we're going to breathe in, breathe out. Does everybody feel less stressed? We'll keep going. So we're going to breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. And that's it. So, you guys are ready for your day. We've decreased your stress. We've decreased your blood pressure. We've increased your immunity. And now you're ready for a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily, for those moments of mindfulness. I feel better. You may have noticed a place set at your place setting, kind of a packet of something, and it's labeled Kind Kit. And we have a fun and inspiring activity to start off our day, but feel free to think about it as we explain it here, and think about it and complete it as you go throughout the rest of your day. But this activity is going to give us all an opportunity right now to make an extraordinary impact across the state. So get excited. So to help me explain this activity, I would like to invite Justin Kruger, founder and CEO of Project Helping and Kind Hub, and he's going to come up and describe the philosophy of this Kind Kit that you have in front of you and help you get started on it.
Good morning. I want to start by addressing how unfortunate it is to be introduced the day before Halloween with the last name of Kruger. I've been thinking about this since I saw the date for the conference, and I really was uncomfortable about it. But I'm grateful to be here with all of you. You guys do have a Kind Kit in front of you. I want to briefly explain what they are and then what we'll be doing. So Kind Kits are deliverable volunteer opportunities and acts of kindness. So if you are hosting a company meeting, if you have a group of people that are coming together, you can reach out to us and order these, and we will customize them, or we have on our website a list of 12 different projects. So each month is themed, and when you order the kit, you can either subscribe and get one every month, and we'll send you the themed kit each month, or you can order what's called a party pack, which is what this is considered, a fairly large one at that, with 600 people. But we will build these kits, customize them, and send them in for corporate events, meetings. You can even order them to come to your home every month. So they're sort of like a bark box, essentially, a subscription box for doing good things for people. So we customized this one for this specific conference, and inside the kit you'll have the materials to make a gratitude card for a Wisconsin first responder. And so you can do these now, you can do them as you have free time, you can even take them and do them later. There are some boxes in the back that you can put these in when you're done, so there's some postal boxes. If you do write them at some point today, drop them off there, or feel free to take them with you and mail them where you are. I wanted to sort of kick this off with a quick story and express my gratitude for first responders. This was not part of my plan when we did these, but 1 week ago today, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and she was walking home from school, and we live 2 blocks from the school on a very busy street. And a car pulled up, and a guy got out of the car and opened the door and tried to force my 10-year-old daughter into the car. And fortunately, she is safe. She did exactly what she was supposed to do. She screamed, and she fought, and she ran home. I was really moved by the compassion and the patience with which the first responders reacted. They treated my daughter with a great deal of respect, and they handled the situation incredibly well, as did my daughter. So I think we often think of first responders as, running into burning buildings in emergency situations, and they do that, and we should be very grateful for that. But my personal gratitude right now is for the 2 police officers that came and how incredibly well and compassionately they treated our family and my daughter. So when you have time today, take some time, think about your gratitude for first responders. We also have a booth in the exhibit hall, so stop by and ask any questions and come see us if you have questions. So thank you for participating.
I just want to share one more quick note. Thank you, Justin, and I hope you guys enjoy this activity as a way to spread positivity to over 600 first responders throughout the state of Wisconsin. You'll find 2 address lists in the center of each of your tables that you can scan and find the address to your first responder in your own community. And then one more logistical thing, we have volunteers with postal tubs that will collect these from you, and we will post them. We will make sure that they get stamps. So we know that in terms of worksite wellness, first responders can be a difficult population to reach. And so we thought this could be a really great opportunity, again, for us right here today in this room at this conference to send out some gratitude and support and, again, make that extraordinary impact. And now, I am so excited. Let's get inspired by our morning keynote. It is my absolute pleasure and privilege to introduce you guys to MJ Shaar. With enthusiasm and flair, she is going to share with us a model of positivity for extraordinary workplaces. MJ Shaar is one of the most sought-after experts applying positive psychology to health habits and promotion. She's trained by the National Speakers Association, and she's known for offering high-energy sessions, we're going to see that today, with emotional twists. One of the first 50 in the world to obtain a Master in Applied Positive Psychology from the University of Pennsylvania, she studied directly with and taught alongside Martin Seligman, the founder of the field. MJ has offered trainings and keynotes for Fortune companies, governmental institutions, wellness and coaching organizations, as well as various universities. She has worked in 10 countries, over 4 continents, and her trainings have been delivered in 4 languages. She co-authored Smarts and Stamina, The Busy Person's Guide to Optimal Health and Performance, and contributes to the Huffington Post and Psychology Today. Please join me in welcoming MJ Shaar.
Good morning. Hopefully the clicker works for me this morning, or I'm going to be a little bit out of sync with what I have to say, because I'm hoping that this is going to be quite an interactive session, and I'm going to ask you questions as we go along to decide on what we're going to do next. So hopefully you guys will be responding vigorously so that you get the content that you want. But before we do that, let me start with a story. When I turned 22 years old, Bob, my dad's best friend, decided that I was now old enough to marry and that his son, Rob, was the perfect candidate. So every time I met Bob, every time we spoke over the phone, he would say, "You and my son would be great together. You and Rob would be the perfect couple. Why don't you meet Rob?" But you see, the more he insisted, the more I resisted. Because I lived in Montreal, French suburbia, and that's the accent that you hear right now, and I wanted nothing to do with Rob because he lived in Pennsylvania, and I did not want to leave my hometown. But 4 full years of complete harassment later, I finally said, "Okay, Bob, if you're that desperate, I'm gonna meet Rob, I'll meet him once, and then let's be done with this conversation." So Bob shook on this deal, and we organized a first date. And I got ready for that first date with the same level of excitement as I do when it's time to clean my garage. And I went through the motions just to try to prove to myself that this wasn't meant to be. So much so that at the end of the first date, I said, what would it have been like had I been a little bit more open? And so, miraculously, Rob called for a second date, and I said, sure, just so I can, prove to myself again it's not going to work. And then he called for a third date, and I said yes to that too. And at the end of that third date, when he leaned at the back of his truck to wave me goodbye, I knew right there and then, I'm on a highway to hell. I'm the highway to hell. It was going to be the highway to hell. I thought, I'm on the highway to hell. So let's do it, is what I thought. And I did it. And 13 years later, I do not want to know what my life would be like had I not been on that first, second, and third date. And the reason I share this story with you this morning is because sometimes we resist things because they're out of our comfort zone. But if we can open ourselves up a little bit to new possibilities, then maybe, just maybe, we can open up a world that we had no idea existed. Here you can see on my slide that I am a newly sworn in American citizen, very proud of it. And so that was really a new world of possibilities for me. And I hope that this morning we can open up a window to a new world of possibilities for you as well. And we're going to start doing that by using what I call the red challenge. I will show you a collage of images. You will have 30 seconds to look at it. This is an exercise in focus and memory. And so the goal is for you to spot everything that you can see that is red. At the end of the 30 seconds, I'm going to switch the image again, and then count on your fingers. Don't say it out loud because you might remember things your neighbor doesn't remember. So count on your fingers how many red things you can remember once I've switched the image. Are we ready? No cheating. Nobody writes down, right? Focus and memory for 30 seconds. Here we go. And here we go. Now count on your fingers, and as people do that, lots of empty spaces up front. For those of you who are standing at the back, if you are choosing to do it standing, great for you. If you are looking for a seat, lots of them up front right here. All right, so now, how many of us remember at least 4 red things? Please stand up. And that is pretty much everyone, if not everyone. Okay. Sit down when I call the number where you can't remember anymore. How about 5 red elements? Still everyone or almost. 6. 7. 8. All right, so looking around, 9 and 10 or more. Some people have really good memories. Thank you very much. You can now sit down. So can we agree that the average is around 8, maybe? 8 red elements that we remember? Yes. Thank you. Okay, now the question you did not anticipate. How many green things can you remember? Now think about it for a quick moment and stand up if you remember 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people out of 600 participants or so remember 4 green things. Thank you. Thank you very much. Everybody can probably remember 1. It is the green frog. You remember it because it is top left corner, it's got red eyes, and it's just so cute, right? Now, we remembered more than twice the amount of red elements as we do the number of green elements. But if you take a look at my collage a second time, you'll see that we have the exact same number of red versus green. So why do we remember the red? This is what I've told you to do. This is what you were looking for, right? And so the point of this activity is to show you that it really does not matter what's in your environment. What matters is what you pay attention to. So as you go through your days, your work day, your time with your family and loved ones, as you consider yourself, your job assignment, your work environment, are you looking for what's wrong in all of these things and how you must fix it all? Or are you looking for what's right and how you can build from there? That choice of how you're going to look at the world has very meaningful and deep implications. And I'm going to show you just how deep it can go, starting with one quick video for 1 minute. Let's look at it, and we're going to talk about it after. So exact same facts, we have seen them twice. What did you think was happening the first time? Chaos. Stress. Bad things in the world. When I saw this, I expected that we were going to see 9/11 all over again. Now, what did you think was going on the second time? Fun. What was that? Discovery. Yes. Harmony. Yes, when I saw it the second time, I thought we are now seeing an artist who's looking for inspiration in New York City. Can you associate with those two visions? Yes, the exact same facts, seen with a different background music, leads us to new conclusions. And that leads us to a new attitude and therefore new behaviors. Now, the exact thing happens in our bodies and in our minds as we go through our days. And here the slides are starting to not cooperate. Okay, so the same thing happens as we are going through our day, except that instead of hearing physical music, we are rocking or not to the tune of our biochemical activity. So here I'm going to start to describe a little bit of biochemical activity for you all, and actually we've already heard a little bit of it this morning through that mindfulness exercise. The idea is not to dig deep into the research here, the idea is to understand the concept. In fact, I could probably present to you a dozen other biochemicals, and they would probably all reinforce this big picture. So the idea again is just to understand the system that I'm going to present to you. So a few examples. When we are high on serotonin, we are more likely to affect the behaviors that we want. Serotonin acts as a self-discipline biochemical. It helps us feel cool, calm, and collected. It helps us have self-control. And so when we are high on serotonin, we are more likely to sleep well, to have perky mood, to be able to resist food cravings, and to implement our exercise intentions. Dopamine is like physical liquid energy. It says yay to us when we do something good. It's like a good cheerleader, helps us feel energetic. And so high dopamine helps us improve our mood, and it can improve our food choices as well. And it is a good thing that helps us feel good throughout our day. Cortisol, on the other hand, is the opposite. We've already heard this morning, it is stress hormone, and it is one that is generated for those long-term stresses, not like the little girl who was just taken by this guy who opened the van door, more like, you know, those endless to-do lists that we all have, that causes us to have cortisol. And so we tend to all run too high on cortisol in general. We want to lower it because cortisol makes us more susceptible to experience high sugar, high fat, high salt food cravings. It also causes insomnia because cortisol makes us want to keep going, to continue on tackling all those stresses that we have in our lives. So as we see here, our biochemical activity influences how we feel and therefore what behaviors we will implement. The reverse is also true. When we sleep better, for example, we are rebalancing all of our biochemical activity such that we produce more of the biochemicals that are helpful and less of the ones that are not so helpful because we run too high on them. Depending on the food choices that we make, we may increase dopamine or we may increase serotonin, for example. And so our behaviors also impact our biochemical activity. So if I try to summarize those past two slides, what I would say is that our biochemical activity influences our behaviors, and our behaviors also influence our biochemical activity. And so in short, what I'm saying is that one behavior will impact another behavior, right? So what we see is a cycle where sleep, food, mood, and exercise continue to influence our future sleep, food, mood, and exercise decisions. And so if food is a problem for you or your participants, anybody knows anybody who has a problem with their food intake? Yeah, and that's not common, so we're going to use that example just to, go outside of the box a little bit, right? If food is your problem, then it's not your solution. Give up the food plan for a little bit. Get off the bandwagon of the diet for a little bit. You have a lifetime of past failures showing you can't do this yet. Instead, if you work on your sleep habits, for example, you will be boosting your serotonin, so you will have more self-control. You will be reducing your cortisol, so you will experience fewer food cravings. Work on something else. And here I'm giving you one example with sleep. I could say the same thing with mood. If you work on mood first, again, increasing serotonin, decreasing cortisol, fewer food cravings, higher potential to resist the ones you do experience. So work on another behavior. Work on what's right. Build it up stronger so that you feel you are able of behavioral change. So that when it's time to tackle food, you are stronger, the obstacles are lower, and you have some previous victories to build on. Does that sound like a good plan? Now here's the kicker. Research shows that if a new wellness behavior induces positive emotions in us, we are 4.5 times more likely to keep up with it at the 15-month mark. 4.5 times more likely. If food is your problem, food does not induce positive emotions for you when you try to tackle it. All you know is it's going to be hard, it's going to be painful, and I failed 12 times before. If you work on something that you haven't failed at before so badly, you are more likely to experience those positive emotions that are going to keep you going long term. Now, how do we use that in the context of workplace wellness? Well, here's a quick activity, and I'm going to give you 1 minute to think about it for yourself first. You draw a wheel like that, and you tell your participants, give yourself between 0 and 3 points for sleep. Let's start with sleep. For sleep, how motivated are you to tackle sleep in your life right now? 0 to 3 points. Then from 0 to 3 points, how much impact do you think working on sleep can have on your life, on your behavior, on how you perceive your tasks and your surroundings and all of that, on your emotional health? Then how much support or resources do you feel that you have currently at your fingertips to help you improve your sleep habits? And give yourself 1 bonus point if you have few obstacles. So now you will have accumulated between 0 and 10 points for sleep. Repeat that exercise, and you can draw on that wheel if you want. You can draw the arc. Let's say you've accumulated 7 points for sleep. You draw that arc. That's the 7th level up. And then you can repeat that exercise for your food, your mood, and your exercise habits. And you get an idea of what the wheel is like. And then you can explain to your participants that the bigger the arc of that little portion of the wheel, the more they can improve, the easier it will be for them to make some progress. And if you increase that arc just a little bit more, then when you get to that portion, it's giving you like a little hump, like a little, woo, I got to spin a little bit faster at a higher pace here. So this is usually where you need to start. And it doesn't mean that you're stuck there forever, right? Let's say you have started to work on your exercise based on that wheel for a moment. Well, you work on exercise for however long you still feel like this is your biggest arc. However long you feel like this is what's going to bring the most impact, and that is where you are most motivated to continue on working. Does that make sense? Any questions or comments? Do you see how you can use that? Thank you. Somebody nodded over there. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to think about it for yourself. And we're going to talk about it very briefly after. Yes? I'm sorry, would you repeat that a little bit loud? How do they work on their mood? Oh, I'm glad you asked, because the rest of the presentation is about that. So by the end, you should have many answers to your question. Okay, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think about it for yourself. All right. So based on this exercise, would you next work on what you thought you should work or something different? I speak French, English, and Spanish. I don't speak silence. Would it be different? Would you start in a different place, or would you start in the same place? Different. Most people that I've heard said different. Okay, so that is one way to get your participants out of a rut. If they feel like they've tried everything, they're discouraged, they don't feel like they are making much progress anymore, that is one good way to get them out of a rut. Start onto something that you didn't think was where you were going to start and build from what's right. The whole idea is to focus on what we can do, not what we can't. Now, of course, some people are going to be lost. They're going to say, I still don't know where to start. Well, when in doubt, start with mood. And now we're going to talk about how to improve mood. Why should we start with mood? Two big reasons. Number one, I've been doing this for over 10 years, presentations just like this. And I've heard people over 10 years tell me, MJ, I have tried every trick under the sun to improve my sleep habits, and I still suffer from insomnia. MJ, I have tried every food plan under the planet, and I still can't resist my food cravings. MJ, I have tried all forms of exercise. I really don't like sweating. I really don't like feeling my heart rate go up. And so as a result, exercise is just really difficult for me. It's very defeating. But I have yet to hear one person tell me I have tried everything to improve my mood, and I'm still in the same crappy mood I was 10 years ago. Mood is something that we can work on as we do the rest of our lives. We don't need to carve out time for it. We don't need to take a shower after. We don't need to take cooking lessons. We don't need to learn to count calories or triglycerides or anything like that. It's very simple to work on mood. That's my first reason why we should work on that. The second reason is, I just showed you that when something evokes positive emotions, we are 4.5 times more likely to stick with it. Why not work on positive emotions out of the gates? We are sure that we are putting the statistics on our side as opposed to against us. Now here's more reason why we should work on mood. As we improve mood, the body changes, and we've already heard that this morning, right? I'm the second one to deliver that message, and it's not even 9 o'clock yet. As we work on mood, our body reacts. As we decrease our heart rate, as we become a little bit more calm, cool, calm, collected, as we feel good, as we connect with other people, the body reacts to that change in a very positive way. Now here's a moment where I'm going to pause and ask you what kind of content you want. We have lots of claims on that slide, and we have very good research to back those claims up. Would you like me, and on the next slide, I'm going to have another bunch of claims like that pertaining to how happiness leads to more productivity. Would you like me to spend more time describing the research behind those claims so that you understand it and you can transmit it better? Or would you rather I save the time and give you one more application, one more tool you can use in order to improve mood in your organizations? If you want to hear the research more deeply, and I'm going to skim over it very quickly anyway. If you want to hear a deeper dive into the research, let me hear you. Okay. If you would like a deeper dive into one new application that I probably won't have time to present otherwise, let me hear you. Okay, so we're going to do the application. For those of you who said yes to the research, on my last slide, you'll see my contact information. Don't be shy. Reach out. I'll be happy to send you the papers. Those are meant to be shared. This is power. This is information that you can use. So please reach out, and I'll be happy to send you the details. Okay, so the impact of having a better mood is estimated to be similar to being 3 times bigger than the impact of not smoking. Can you believe that? Now, here are a lot of claims, and we've just decided that I was not going to describe all of the research, but I can't help it. I got to tell you a little bit about it. So for one example, we say higher longevity. This has been discovered by studying nuns, and the nuns, all have a similar lifestyle. They don't get married, they don't get divorced, they don't have much of a sexual life, so this is not the variables that can make up for the difference in how they survive over the years. But the one thing that they've discovered is that the nuns who are happiest tend to live on average 7 years longer. Here we have the claim of better immune function. How we have discovered that people have been put into completely sanitized conditions in quarantine for a full week. But before entering the sanitized conditions, they were injected with the virus of the flu through their noses. And then we looked at who gets sick and who doesn't. And we have measured that by collecting, weighing, and analyzing all of their Kleenex use. And so we were able to tell who is sick and who isn't, and who is bothered by the symptoms and who is not. And what we've discovered is that the happier the people were prior to the injection of the flu in their noses, the lesser their chances of developing the flu. Isn't that amazing? Simply for being happy. Now here is another bunch of claims that will be interesting. Employees who are higher on psychological well-being also benefit from a host of desirable conditions. They are better liked, they are better ambassadors for the organization, better decision makers. How do we know that? One quick example. Participants have been given a choice of 6 cars, each varying along 9 dimensions. People who were made to feel happy prior to the decision-making process were more likely to let go of unimportant information, dig deeper into the important information, and actually make a more efficient decision at the end. So we know that people who are higher on psychological well-being tend to be better decision makers, more claims, more creative, perceived as more competent. They sell more. In fact, if you have a sales staff, the top 10% most optimistic of your sales staff is likely to sell up to 88% more than the bottom 10% most pessimistic of your staff. Isn't that interesting? They are less likely to burn out because of what we have already explained, right? They are higher on serotonin, which helps us throughout our day. They are lower on cortisol, which makes us, break down inside because it's kind of crushing over time. And so those are things that we are after in the wellness industry, aren't we, right? It's good that people exercise. It's good that they plug in more minutes of exercise or that they eat better. But ultimately, we also want them to lead meaningful, productive lives. And here we see that if we work on mood, not only are we going to improve their physical health, but also their productivity at work. So we're going to start digging into how do we actually bring about that change. And that change is studied formally under the field of positive psychology. Positive psychology is the scientific study of what makes us flourish, or the scientific study of what makes life worth living. It has 5 pillars, which together spell the acronym PERMA. P stands for positive emotions like love, awe, curiosity, excitement, joy. E stands for engagement, the ability to lose track of time because we are so engrossed into what we are doing. R stands for relationships. Here we're not looking at the energy vampires in our world. We're looking for the positive, meaningful relationships that uplift you, that make you feel like you can do more than you thought you could previously. The friends that have your back. The peers that support you and that bring meaning to your workday. M is meaning, having a sense of purpose, spirituality, feeling that what we're doing is socially valuable. And A stands for accomplishments. So PERMA helps us have higher psychological well-being. And now we're going to look at 3 of those pillars. I was going to do just 2, but we've chosen to go quicker on the research, so we'll explore 3 of those pillars, starting with positive emotions. This is a photo of my son James when he was 18 months old. And one day we were playing together in the yard, and I thought that he might have put some mulch in his mouth. And so I absolutely freak out because as a teenager, we've had to put a dog down for eating mulch. And so I'm like, James, open your mouth. Mommy's got to see what's in there. And of course, he's like, mm-mm. And I go, James, please open your mouth. I really have to see what's in there. Mm-mm. James, please, come on. Open it for mommy. Open it. Mm-mm. And I'm like, okay, I got to do something different because this is not working. James, where's your tongue? And he goes, ah. When you change the question that you ask, you change the results that you get. And so if we are seeking to build more positive emotions, why aren't we asking positivity-inducing questions? The original research, you've all heard it, was done with the question, what are you grateful for? And people had to write down 3 things they were grateful for every night for 1 month. And at the end of the month, they all had a rise in their happiness levels because they had trained their brain to look for what's right. At the 6-month follow-up, people were still happier because those new pathways in their brain towards positivity were still there, solidly anchored. So this is a very good question. And at first people will say, well, I'm grateful for the sun, I'm grateful for my son, or I'm grateful for my husband, my wife, my mom, these kinds of things, the obvious things that we are grateful for. After a while, people start to feel grateful for things that we take for granted. I am grateful that I have a fully abled body. I am grateful that I live in a country that gives me freedom of life, yeah, that's pretty good, but also freedom of speech and religion. So this is a good exercise, but research has shown that for some people, after a while, it becomes a little bit forced. Like, okay, I'm grateful, but what else is there? And so I have built some other positivity-inducing questions based on that PERMA model. So for example, when were you most engaged today? Now, this is a very good question because most people are looking forward to the time at which they clock out and they go home because they feel like this is when life actually starts. But when you start asking them that question, research shows that people are most engaged at work. And engagement is an intrinsically rewarding state where we feel fully, like we're using fully our potential. And so when people start to realize I was most engaged at work, it starts to shift their perception about their workday in a very positive manner. Another positivity question, whom did you connect with today? Whoa, it's 3:30 and all I've done is type emails up in my office all day. Maybe it's time I go see someone and say hello. Because when we connect with our peers, we feel like we are part of a tribe, of a group. We feel connected, and that helps us feel more positive. Whom did you make feel special lately? Yeah, nobody. Well, maybe it should be part of what you do every now and then, right? We all like to feel special. If we start giving it away, maybe it will come back. What was the best part of your day? I love that question. I ask my son, he's 3 years old now, I ask him that question every night before bed. And he doesn't always have, the words or he can't remember his whole day, but I'll ask him, was it this part or was it that part? Did you like going on the trail or did you like playing with Roro? And so we try to attract his attention to what was the best part of his day. Now imagine using that question with your children at night at dinner time. Usually what we ask is, how was your day? And the response is, fine, right? Specifically, if we have teenagers, the response might just be, right? But when you ask, what was the best part of your day, they have to think about good things. And then you start to train their brains into more positivity. Now let's imagine using questions like these ones as part of what we do in wellness. We can advertise these questions in very many different ways. You can print them on your entryway screens or on posters that you're going to put by the water cooler, in the bathroom stalls, in the stairwells. You can print them on funky wellness champion t-shirts. You can send them via text messaging, on your newsletter, on your wellness portal. You can sprinkle those positivity questions throughout what you do. And as such, people are going to start to wonder about those positive things. Now you're switching their inner conversation with themselves and with each other. Now at the water cooler, when they say, whom did you connect with today? They're going to be like, oh, better connect with you because it's written right here. I should connect with people, right? So instead of talking about, yeah, it's getting cold, days are getting cold and short and winter's coming, it's going to be tough, I hate winter. They're going to be talking about things that are more meaningful. How's your kid? Haven't heard about Leslie in a while. How's she doing, right? So we are starting to create deeper bonds between people. Now, what if we were to integrate that into our HR processes? So for example, you are interviewing a new candidate and you ask, so tell me, what brings meaning to your workday? When are you most engaged at work? What are you most grateful for in your workplace? Some of your candidates are going to be like, blah, 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 blah. I was prepared to talk about my accomplishments. And then you know that these people are not going to be contributing of a highly positive work culture. Other candidates are going to have lots to tell you and they're going to be, I am so glad you asked. Then you know that these candidates are going to be increasing that positivity vibe that you are trying to foster. How about using those questions in performance evaluations? We all dread performance evaluations, right? So instead of just talking about, did you hit your sales goal? Did you get good performance ratings from your customers and these kinds of things? What if we also included what brings meaning to your workday? When are you most engaged? Whom do you connect with? Whom do you support? As part of the conversation in performance evaluations, isn't that something that would kind of bring a little bit of levity, like a little bit of positivity in the conversation, but that also brings a lot of value to the performance evaluation process? What if we use that when we are trying to promote someone to the next level from within? Now, I know what some of you are thinking, MJ, that sounds great, but I'm not an HR manager. No, but you know them, don't you? You can talk about these topics with them. I am telling you, when I do these presentations in HR groups, they go, oh, this is going down. This is so going down right now. So talk to the managers that are close to you and talk about the value of improving the culture through more positivity. And I promise you, some managers are going to jump all over that and they're going to thank you for it. And then they will talk to other managers. Maybe you'll even get the opportunity to do an HR manager training. Or maybe you can talk about it with the managers of units that you are close to. And that unit may experience some change such that other managers around will be interested in what's up. Again, our focus today is not on what you can't do, but what you can. Now let's take the pulse very quickly. I'd like to know how you're feeling right this minute, inside yourself. Let's check in. Are you tired or energized? 0 to 10. Are you bored or inspired? And are you upset or are you happy? Give yourself a score out of 30. And now we're going to do a quick activity together. With the peers that you have at your table, you're going to make some music happen. So one of you is going to say, I'm the drummer. And the drummer is going to start drumming a beat. It can be as simple as, or maybe you feel like you're a little funky this morning, you heard some jazz music in the elevator, and you're going to go with, whatever you want to drum, the drummer is going to start. And then everybody else at the table, and if you are a table of 3, you might want to join with a table of 2, for example. Everybody else at that table is going to join in, trying to add to that rhythm to create some music together. So you may use your water glass, your water bottle, your pens, your voice, your feet. You may go or ding, 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 whatever you've got. I'm giving you 1 minute to make some music happen. Enjoy it. And bring it to a grand finale. Woo, I love that. All right, I love this exercise. I see people go like this. You know, and I think that's just awesome. Okay, let's check in one more time. How are you feeling right now? Much better, I just heard. Are you tired? Are you bored and upset? Or are you energized and inspired and happy? If you have increased even by half a point, please stand up. I saw someone go. Love seeing that. And that is almost all of us. That is almost all of us. Thank you very much. So you have increased how good you feel and therefore how productive you can be in 1 minute. Why? Because you have had a moment of human connection with other people. It doesn't matter how you feel about those people. You probably don't even know them. What matters is that you've connected with them. And what happens in the moment is that we feel an uplift in our energy and in our inspiration levels. And that uplift translates to much needed health and productivity benefits. So here I would love again to describe all of the research that's behind those claims, but we've chosen otherwise. We've chosen to experience a little bit more of the applications instead. But Barbara Fredrickson's research has been noteworthy enough that she has had the privilege of presenting it to the Dalai Lama. George Vaillant has led the Harvard Grant Study, multi-million-dollar longitudinal study that started in 1939 that is still going on today. And they have looked at massive amounts of data, all the way from brain imaging to urine samples to interviews to all access to medical records. Dan Buettner explored the 5 areas in the world where there is the highest concentration of centenarians. And these centenarians have not only added more years to their life, but also more life to their years. And all of them, through various research methods, have wondered what makes people healthy, what makes the difference. And they were looking for something like exercise and triglycerides level and smoking and these kinds of things. And what they have actually found is that it all comes down to love, human connection. Do you feel connected with other people? How often do you look at someone in the eyes and feel like you got each other? That's what it comes down to. When we feel more human connections, not only do we experience the health benefits, like what I've just showed you, and also lower triglycerides and lower blood pressure and fewer chances of cardiovascular events, higher chances of recovery promptly and fully if you do experience a cardiovascular event, fewer chances of Alzheimer's, all of that good stuff happens when you experience more love in your life. On top of all of that, we also experience some competitive advantages. So for example, if you connect regularly with your coworker, Brett, now Brett is on your team. He's got your back. When your organization goes through change, anybody go through change? Any like ever? Does it happen, right? When your organization goes through change, there will be pain, right? Somebody doesn't get the job they wanted. Somebody got a job they did not want. Somebody who was a key anchor to the team got moved to a different department, things like that. Well, when you know that your coworkers have your back, Brett, for example, because you've taken the time to connect with him meaningfully at the water cooler, instead of talking about the weather, you have talked about his kids, for example. Now you are more adaptable through that change because you know people have your back, because you know that you are not alone facing that change. It helps with innovation because people feel like they have the psychological safety to express ideas that are out of the box. It helps with talent retention. How often do people leave a job, not because of the job description, actually that's a job description that they've applied for and accepted, they leave the job because of a bad boss or a bad team. They can't stand the environment. But when there is care and compassion in the environment, people stick around longer because they love being there and they don't know what's waiting for them in the next team. And it helps also with customer engagement because when your psychological needs are met, you are more likely to be apt to meeting that of others. So those are very tangible competitive advantages that come from a culture of care and compassion. Now, that also translates to financial benefits. What do these organizations have in common? Two things. They perform highly on the stock market. In fact, they have surpassed the Standard & Poor's index by 14 times in the 1998 to 2003 time period. But they also have the word love or care or compassion written down in their mission or vision statements, in their corporate value statements, in the how we do things around here statements. So they care not just for their employees or not just for their customers, but also for the families of those, also for the environments, the communities where they evolve. And that brings about some highly tangible financial benefits to those organizations. So how can you start bringing about more human connections at work? Well, here's a very simple practice. Write a list of the people you manage or a list of the people that you work with closely. And then try and find 3 good things about these people. For some individuals, it'll be very easy for you to do so, and you'll know exactly what you appreciate about them. Have you told them? And how? And when? How about focusing on that a little bit more? For some individuals, it's going to be difficult. In this case, Steve, in your mind, Steve is a loser right now. So when you interact with Steve, instead of continuing to prove to yourself why he's a loser, try and wonder, I have to fill those boxes. I have to find 3 good things about Steve. And maybe then you'll open your mind to something you had not seen before. Because it is to your advantage, as well as that of Steve, as well as those around you, for you and Steve to have a good working relationship. And it starts with appreciating who he is and what he brings to the table. Now here's the next step. I call that my reality check. Ask yourself some caring behaviors that you want to emulate. So for example, offering some gratitude for what they bring to the table, offering some support when you know that they have areas of need, finding out something new about their reality, whether it's at home or at work. So you see the whole individual, not just a worker that produces an output. Find out how they're doing today, and maybe even promoting their career development if you are in a management role specifically towards that individual. And as you go through your week, give yourself 1 check mark every time you perform one of these behaviors with one of these individuals. So in this case, Steve, again, is your loser. You did not appreciate Steve, and as a result, you don't offer any caring behaviors to him. No wonder he's not a performer, right? No wonder your relationship suffers. As you find more good things about him, and as you become more aware of the need to practice care towards this individual, you're going to start to fill in that last column. And then you looking at that, no kidding, if you're the manager, no kidding, there's some unhealthy competition between Jill and Steve. You give all your attention to Jill all the time. For sure, Steve is resentful towards that, and you can resolve that. Now, the goal is not to be completely equal with everyone. Some people do deserve more gratitude. The goal is to make sure that nobody is forgotten or that no behavior is forgotten. Maybe you never find out anything about people's realities, and if you did, it would add a lot more dimension to how you all work together as a cohesive team. So this is what I call my reality check. Now, what if we were to integrate some of those questions, or a more general question? How do you show care and compassion in the workplace? What if we were to integrate that in our HR processes, like I have suggested earlier? You're interviewing a new candidate. How do you show care and compassion in the workplace? Very good question, as you are making more people enter your workplace culture and you're trying to foster a culture of care and compassion. When you are trying to promote someone, when you are doing performance evaluations, you start asking that question, people are going to be like, whoa, okay, this is something that's important here. I need to pay attention. Next time that I see Brett, instead of running to my office to type up more emails, I'll go inquire about his daughter. I'll go inquire about maybe his divorce if he's going through one, right? We don't want to get involved with the yucky stuff sometimes. We don't have to do that. We just need to show that we're there. And sometimes if somebody unrolls something that was a little bit of a can of worms you didn't expect and you're not comfortable, you can have a caring response without digging deep into it. Mine is, I really didn't expect that. I'm sorry to know that, or to find out that you are going through a hard time. I will pray about it. And sometimes that's all it takes, for someone to know that you care and that you have a good intention towards their lives and towards what they're facing. Now, I know that some of you are thinking, MJ, this is okay, it's just not my job. And if it's not your job, then my first response is, make it so. We are wellness leaders, not order takers, not bureaucrats. It is our job to improve the wellness level of the populations we serve. I wish I had had more time to explain all the research, and more research that is not even on my slides, to express how focusing on what's right, how building from positivity, how care and compassion in the workplace really impacts not only people's health, not only how they feel, but also their productivity and the overall organizational climate. If that is not your job, then I don't know what is. This matters a whole lot more than how many steps people are taking each day, if you ask me. And how many steps people take each day is something that they can read out of a women's magazine. Changing the organizational climate is something they can't do without you. So if it's not your job, my first thing is make it so. And you will not change it all this year, one step at a time. Focus on what you can do, not what you can't. My second response is, people who are on their deathbed are a whole lot more likely to regret what they didn't do versus what they did do. So let's talk about that for a quick minute. Let's think about what brings meaning to your life. And if I were to ask you, if you had your life to live over, what would you definitely not change? If you had all the time and resources you could possibly need, how would you invest them? And what is your dream contribution to this world? I'm sure your brain is now going in a direction that's moving you away from counting steps and counting servings of fruit and vegetables. Not that those things are not important, but there is a bigger picture that wellness is starting to discover and that we need to tackle. This is what brings meaning to our lives. And as we experience more meaning, what happens? Not only do we become healthier, but we also become more likely to go above and beyond whatever we are doing and to do it joyfully. You can be a janitor and think you have a job. Clock in, clock out, get a paycheck. You can be a janitor and be after a career. You want to advance, you want to have more prestige, you want to feel like you are going places, in your career because you want to have the status that comes with it and the income. Or you can be a janitor and have a calling where you focus on what is socially valuable in the work that you do. And as you progress along that scale and you become more and more of someone who is experiencing a calling, you will reap the benefits that I have explained earlier and more. So how do we get our participants to do that? Well, here's what I call the integrity mirror. So you can ask your participants to list the activities that they take on a week-to-week basis. Then estimate how much time they spend in each of those activities. And you can do it for yourself too. And by the way, now I'm going to look at work activities. So we're looking at hopefully something that's somewhat of a 40-hour work week, maybe 50. But you could do the same thing, and you place work in 1 or 2 categories, and then you do it for your devotional time and your volunteering and your extracurricular activities and time spent with loved ones and house chores. So you have the choice of keeping it a strictly work-related activity or more of a life or lifestyle activity. All right, so you list your activities, then you list how much time per week you devote to each of those activities. Then you give those activities a meaning value, let's say from 1 to 5. 1 would be something that brings very little meaning to your life. 5 would be something that brings a lot of meaning to your life. And then on the last column, and that's the most important column, you try and make some adjustments. So for example, when I did that activity, I realized I was spending too much time in the mirror, and so I chopped my hair off. I have reclaimed 10 minutes in my schedule daily that I invest in raising my toddler. That was a very good switch for me. Somebody might decide that they're spending too much time commuting, but they can't really change how much time they're spending doing it. So instead of cutting down that time because they live where they live and moving is out of the question for right now, then you can try and increase the meaning value of the time you spend commuting. So maybe while you commute, you're going to start listening to audiobooks, so you can learn something as you commute. Or maybe it's going to then cut down your continuing education time so that you can spend more time in things that are more value-added, more meaningful in your life. So this is a very easy grid that people can use to see, am I living up to my standards? Am I living a life that's meaningful? And how can I tweak things so that I increase the meaning value of the time I spend in all of those activities? Does that make sense? All right, as people take on that activity, what's going to happen is that they're going to start to feel more meaning, and as you are feeling more filled up, more fulfilled through feeling more purpose in your life, then you reap the health benefits and the productivity benefits. Any questions on how to implement that? Or ideas or comments? Yes? Good question. I think it was client interactions, and the second word kind of is on the second row, which we don't see. I think it was client interactions. Yes? Oh, how often would you recommend reevaluating? Very, very good question. I would think yearly is a good idea. If people are more devoted to it, if they feel like they've gotten more benefits out of it, they can probably reevaluate every 6 months. But to implement the changes, it takes some time. Like when I got my hair chopped off, I wasn't sure I loved it at first, But, eventually I found a way to style it that worked, and that wasn't taking too long. So, that's one example. But, let's say you did some of those things that might be more of a project. Let's say you decide that you read a lot of research and you listen to a lot of webinars and you're getting a little bit bored of it. It no longer brings as much meaning to your life, but you feel like you really need the information. Maybe you then, as a form of a bit of a project, find a few new recruits that you can then teach that new knowledge to, or that you can take on under your wing a little bit to learn. So by the time you found those recruits, they're on board and you actually get good at teaching them what you've learned so that it increases the meaning value in your life. It might take a couple months, So it all depends on at what speed you move. But I would say every year or every 6 months. Other thoughts, questions? At the back. You're going to have to speak very loud.
I know some people, if you ask them what is their dream contribution to the world, they may not have an answer and are actually frustrated because they're unable to answer that and are stuck in frustration. Like, how do I go that direction if I have no idea what it is?
Yes. Yes, I would love to speak to that. So the question for those of you who may not have heard is some people will say, I have no idea what my dream contribution to the world is, and so what do I do? You don't necessarily need a clear answer that will be the answer for the rest of your life. What matters is that you find something that is meaningful enough for you to feel like it's worth working on right now. A little bit like dating someone. You don't need to find your next, or your new, or your first, whatever, husband to go on a first date, right? Try dating a few things, a few concepts, a few ideas, and see how well it fits. You're allowed to change your mind. Again, The focus is not on what we can't do. The focus is on what we can. Taking one step towards greater positivity can open a whole new world of possibilities. You don't need the full answer today. You just need to start moving. Does that help? All right. Now some of you are thinking, MJ, I would love to do all you're saying across the organization, but I'm just not that powerful yet. I love the yet. Add yet to your thought processes that are not so positive so that you can see, I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way. Mother Teresa said, if you can't feed 100 people, then feed one. So start with yourself. Implement those changes in your own life, and you're going to start radiating a slightly different energy, and it's going to attract new people. And some people are going to want to talk about those changes with you, and they might be intrigued enough to start trying. And then that new person becomes one more individual feeding one, or maybe they're a manager and maybe they feed 10. Again, the idea is to start somewhere so that we can make some progress. November is a wonderful month for you to start those initiatives. So let's start right away. I don't remember the exact dates. I think November 3rd might be, and somebody could Google it maybe. I think November 3rd might be World Compassion Day. We have Thanksgiving this month, and there is also World Kindness Day towards the 23rd or 27th. So it will be all over social media. It will be on Twitter. It will be on Instagram. It will be on Facebook. People are going to be talking about kindness and care and compassion. It is a great time to start one small change and see how far it can go. If you can't feed 100 people, then feed one. And before I go, I would like to share with you a closing story, and it's very much in that train of thought. When I first moved to the United States, I did not have perfect mastery of the English language. In fact, I still don't. I'm sure I've made quite a few mistakes already today. But that did not impede me from wanting to meet my neighbors. And right next door from me lived Larry and Sarah, a pastor that was in his 70s, and his wife. And we met over dinner for the first time, trying to, get acclimated to each other and make conversation. And early on in the dinner, as we were tackling our bowls of soup, I asked, Larry, tell me, do you think souls have sex? Sarah choked on her bite of soup. It came out of her mouth. It was everywhere. But I was more mortified by her reaction than she was mortified at my question, because I had no idea why she choked like this. And then Larry got a little bit overheated. He pulled on the collar of his shirt, chuckled a little bit, coughed a little bit, tried to compose himself, and then proceeded to answer the question I asked. And when I realized where he was going with this, I said, oh, no, that's really not what I meant to talk about. What I wanted to know is, once we're on the other side of heaven, is there male souls and female souls? Like, do we have a gender? That's what I wanted to ask about. And so then, we became friends over that. And the reason I share that story with you is that when we try something new, we're not always experts firsthand. Sometimes things don't go quite as planned, and that's okay. It's not the end of us. And it also doesn't mean that we need to give up altogether that initiative. So this morning, pick something that I've presented to you. Maybe it's the integrity mirror. Maybe it's the reality check. Maybe it's the 3 good things. Maybe it's the sleep, food, mood, and exercise wheel, where we don't start with what's wrong, but we start with what's right. Maybe it's the positivity and connectedness questions. Pick one of those 5 strategies and make a plan for yourself right here, right now, about what you want to do with it. And then write in your agenda a reminder, or on your smartphones, a reminder for 30 days from today and 90 days from today to ask yourself, have you done something about it? And if along the way you make some mistakes, it's okay. Sometimes mistakes turn out to be better than we thought, and good emanates from this funky situation. So don't let that discourage you. You don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much to MJ. She has given us so much, I think, to reflect on and so many opportunities to take back with us and bring back to our own work that we do every day. So thanks again, MJ. A couple of quick notes. So you are now in your break time. So you'll have a break until 10 a.m. The next session will start at 10 a.m. In this break, please feel welcome to go explore the exhibitor hall, meet those different exhibitors, and use your tokens. And then also we have a physical activity break as well during this time. And I do want to make just one more reminder. Again, with what all that MJ just shared with us, I think if you all could write your letter, definitely write your letter. We'll have tubs, if you've already written, we have postal tubs on your way out, but then they'll also be strategically placed throughout, so you won't be able to miss those tubs. So so write that letter, have some impact on the state, and then we'll see you back in here, 12:30 for lunch.